With the pain facing minority Americans in the wake of the murder of George Floyd, many well-meaning people are asking themselves, how can I be an ally in the fight for social justice? Often this question proves challenging. Different leaders and groups make demands of allies that directly contradict each other. For example, many argue that white silence is violence, while others argue white people should be silent to make way for oppressed voices. How can anyone know who to listen to? Unfortunately, often activists intentionally misrepresent themselves as speaking for entire communities despite doing no such thing. Consider the protests organized by radical group The Freedom Neighborhood against Washington, D.C.'s Emancipation Statue. The protesters argued that the freed slaves' kneeling position was offensive and intended to tear down the statue by force. Meanwhile, a direct descendant of the freed slave memorialized in the statue disagreed. He traveled to D.C. to stand in the way of any attempt to pull it down, infuriated about how his family and people's history was being destroyed and flanked by several African American historians. Or consider Quaker Oats' decision to remove the Aunt Jemima character's image and name from their pancake and syrup brand in response to activist pressure. Though the character did originate as a racial stereotype, the great-grandson of the real woman who portrayed Aunt Jemima and who worked for Quaker Oats for 20 years called the decision an injustice for me and my family, furious that the company erased my great-grandmother's history. Or consider the Washington Redskins retiring their name and mascot after decades of objections from Native American activist groups. A 2016 Washington Post poll found that 9 in 10 Native Americans were not offended by the name, replicating the results of a 2004 poll. And despite calls from Black Lives Matter and others to defund the police, a June 2020 poll taken after the murder of George Floyd found 50% of African Americans still believed we need more cops on the street. None of this is necessarily to support excessive police funding or the Redskins' name, nor Aunt Jemima or the Emancipation Statue. But it's to remind those seeking to be allies that the loudest voice rarely represents an entire group's view on how to best fight oppression. Being a good ally can't mean just listening and obeying one viewpoint. Ethnic groups are not monoliths. They are diverse groups of people with different views. To imply that all people of one race do or should think the same is itself racist. Being a good ally needs to mean listening to all voices within a group and doing the critical thinking necessary to weigh competing views. I'm Klein. If you liked this video, please subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.